Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I talk about the NWSL, women's soccer, just soccer, only soccer. We have another US women's national team roster drop today, guys. This time for the SheBelieves Cup. So the SheBelieves Cup is set up a little differently this year. As you may or may not know, the SheBelieves Cup is a mini tournament where 4 teams will compete in a group stage, and the team with the most points will win the SheBelieves Cup. This year, there are still 4 teams, the US, Canada, Brazil, and Japan, but instead of a group stage, there will be 2 semifinal games, the final, and a match for 3rd place. The US will be facing Japan in the semifinal on Saturday, April 6th. Likewise, Canada will be facing Brazil, also on April 6th. So, interestingly enough, the US has beaten Canada and Brazil recently in the Gold Cup. So whether the US moves on to the final or ends up in the match for 3rd place, the US has a chance to meet Canada or Brazil again. So that's going to be something to look forward to. Alright, so when it comes to the US women's national team roster, I'm not really expecting much change from the Gold Cup roster. The NWSL regular season has just started up again. Players and teams are getting adjusted, so I wouldn't be surprised if Twila Kilgore and Emma Hayes behind the scenes decides to stick with the same roster for the Gold Cup, or the same roster from the Gold Cup. However, I do think Mallory Swanson, aka Mal Pugh, may be selected to the actual roster this time around, since she has been getting minutes with the Chicago Red Stars. When it came to the Gold Cup, Mal was selected to the Gold Cup training camp, but didn't get to play in the actual Gold Cup. So maybe we'll get to see her in these games. I mean, it would be great if she could play. Anyway, that all being said, let's get into it, starting with the goalkeepers. Alright, so before I get into it, I do want to add that since I'm expecting the roster to be similar to the Gold Cup roster, I'll have a link in the description below where I discuss that roster more in depth. And since I filmed the first part of this video the day before, I do want to express my condolences to all those affected by the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland. There are multiple people missing and presumed dead, so I ask that you guys keep those people and their families in your prayers. That being said, let's get into the roster, starting with the goalkeepers. For goalkeepers, Jane Campbell, Casey Murphy, and Alyssa Nair. Yeah, as expected. If you remember from the Gold Cup, Nair had an outstanding performance and has been on a roll since. 3 penalty saves in the penalty shootout against Canada. Yeah, that was wild. But then again, that match in general was pretty crazy. She also had some big saves since the NWSL regular season has started up again, which is great to see from the US Women's National Team #1. Anyway, these keepers are fine. Campbell and Murphy are doing well too. Now, on to the defenders. Alright, so for defenders, Abby Dalkemper, Tierna Davidson, Crystal Dunn, Emily Fox, Ava Gaetino, Naomi Girma, Casey Kruger, and Jenna Neiswanger. So almost the same selection of defenders from the Gold Cup, except no Becky Sauerbrunn. There is one new call-up, and that is Ava Gaetino. She played for the University of Notre Dame and was signed by PSG. She also played for the USWNT team. I can imagine she's going to be a player to keep an eye on. It's also good that we're bringing more youth to the back line, because we need players in the back line who can keep up with an opposing team's attacking players. Like, we can't just rely on Girma to chase after everyone. As for the rest of the defenders, they did well in the Gold Cup. I was especially impressed with, of course, Girma, Fox, and Davidson, but Neiswanger was also good too. The defense and back line was something a lot of people were concerned with last year leading up to the World Cup. I think the Gold Cup showed that these defenders can definitely defend. The US can defend when called to do so, but we need to see consistency in the back line as well as good support in the defense. Hopefully we can see that in these games, considering the US has no choice but to defend when it comes to Japan, Canada, and Brazil. Now, on to the midfielders. Alright, so for midfielders, Corbin Albert, Sam Coffey, Lindsay Horan, Olivia Moultrie, Emily Sonnet, and Lily Johannes. So no Rose Lavelle. She is out with an injury, which doesn't surprise me all that much, mainly because it's hard to keep her healthy, and Lavelle is also very injury prone. As for the rest of the midfielders, they're fine. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Albert and Coffey. Albert, much like Horan and also Sonnet, is very flexible in the midfield, and with more focus and development, she could be a solid midfielder for the US team. Same with Coffey. The only criticism I had of Coffey and Albert was they need to be more aggressive, especially if they're playing as a 6 or going as a double 6. In the US's final against Brazil, I did see fans saying the US couldn't keep control of the midfield, and looking back, yeah, that was kind of true. Coffey and Albert are great players, but I would like to see them make their presence known more in the midfield. Kind of like Horan does, minus the yellow cards. There is one new player among us, and that is Lily Johannes. I know she's a young player, only 16. She plays for Dutch club Ajax, and my friend can't stop talking about her. She is a promising youth player, and I'm interested to see what she can bring to the US midfield in attack and how she connects with the other players in the attack. Overall, these midfielders are fine. Again, it's great to see youth on the national team, but it's important to note that these youth players, Johannes, she probably needs time to develop and adjust to the senior team. Now, on to the forwards. For forwards, Katarina Macario, Alex Morgan, Trinity Rodman, Jaden Shaw, Sophia Smith, and Mal Swanson. Yeah, I forgot about Macario. Yes, she has been getting minutes with Chelsea, and it's great that she's playing again. It's also great that she got called up for these games. Of course, Mal Swanson, or Pew, is here as well. She was also missed in the US attack, and I'm interested to see how this US attack comes together with Macario and Swanson now back on the national team. As for Morgan, Rodman, Shaw, and Smith, they did well in the Gold Cup, especially when it came to Shaw. Probably one of my favorites. I was really impressed with her performance. I think she could link up well with Swanson and Macario and Johannes in the midfield. Morgan and Rodman also did well too, and I think with Macario and Swanson returning, the US attack has the potential to be dangerous and threatening. However, building those attacking partnerships as well as developing chemistry in the attack will help the US even more. Alright, so almost an identical roster from the Gold Cup with 2 new additions and 2 players returning from injury. Japan isn't going to be an easy team to beat. In the World Cup last year, they were the only team that was able to beat Spain, who are the current World Cup champions. Japan will definitely be a tough challenge for the US, but it is one that this US team needs in order to prepare for that's supposed to say the Olympics and not the World Cup. But yeah, I agree with myself that we should also prepare for the World Cup that's 4 years away. Anyway, that is all I have for you guys today or tonight, and I'll see you all in the next one. Later.